Hi guys, welcome to this week's edition of Headlines. I'm Sharyl Kaur. Here are the highlights. Authorities have called off the search operation to find parts of the helicopter which crashed in Semenyih on Saturday. Next, the government has begun investigations into civil servants found guilty of wrongdoings in the Auditor General's Report 2014, Series 1. Among those highlighted is the 3.3 million ringgit lost in BRIM leakages due to recipients claiming the aid more than once, with some taking the handouts up to 4 times. In international news, the Kenyan government has ramped up its crackdown against the Al-Shabab militant group after gunmen attacked a university in the country's northeast last week. Now for the main story. Parliament passed the Prevention of Terrorism Bill and also amendments to the Sedition Act this week. These have caused some uproar, but why all the fuss? Is it a storm in a teacup, or is this the most significant blow against civil liberties in recent time? Let's take a closer look at the issue. Back in 2012, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Razak announced the repeal of the Sedition Act. The move was lauded by human rights groups and the federal opposition. 2 years later, the Prime Minister announced not only would the Sedition Act remain, but it will be strengthened to include a special provision to protect the sanctity of all religions, including Islam. Now, fast forward to a few days ago, the Home Ministry tabled a bill in Parliament to amend the Sedition Act, introducing 2 new sections to the law. The Prime Minister has delivered on his promise to use the Sedition Act to protect religion, but has also taken the unexpected step of excluding the government and judiciary from the list of seditious topics. Seems like a move in the right direction, but is it really? As critics have pointed out, protection against religious incitement is already provided for in the Penal Code. The crucial difference is that unlike the Penal Code offences, the element of intention does not need to be proven with the Sedition Act. For lawyers, this makes it a bad law. This is because in criminal law, in order for you to prove that a crime was committed, you have to prove both the act and the intent. So, why the flip-flop? Minister Nancy Shukri from the Prime Minister's department claims that many groups have voiced their support for the law to ensure peace and harmony in the country. The question is, who are these groups? Lawmakers from both Pakatan Rakyat and Barisan Nasional, including BN MP Bung Mokhtar, have been very critical of the new proposed amendments. So it can't be them. Neither can it be human rights groups who have passionately opposed to it. Perkasa in its last National Unity Conference called for the Sedition Act to remain. And just yesterday, another Malay rights group came out in favour of the Act, calling for Putrajaya to emulate Singapore in imposing strict laws on free speech. Parliament passed the amendments to the Sedition Bill earlier this morning by a vote of 108 to 79 after 14 hours of debate. Moving on to the other contentious bill that was passed this week, the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The Anti-Terrorism Bill will allow authorities to detain suspected terrorists for years and have their movements restricted. What concerns civil rights advocates and members of the PR is that the bill also prevents the courts from reviewing decisions by the Prevention of Terrorism Board. Barisan Nasional backbenchers, however, have defended its necessity to deal with threats posed by militants such as the Islamic State. Pakatan called for a bipartisan parliamentary committee so there could be a consensus because both sides of the divide agree there is a need for legislation to combat militant activities. This suggestion was rejected. BN ignored concerns about detention without trial, and the law was passed 79 to 60 after nearly 15 hours of debate in a vote that took place at 2 a.m. on Tuesday. And we made international headlines! Just not for the right reasons! Again! Even the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights has condemned the anti-terror and sedition laws. But it was not all bad news for Barisan because the fallout over the vote fell largely on Pakatan's shoulders. This is because despite the hype, 28 Pakatan MPs did not turn up for the vote. And boy oh boy did it piss off Twitterjaya. #NotCool. Ibrahim Sufyan from the Merdeka Centre believes that although Pakatan members could not block the passing of the Act because the coalition lacks numbers, the PAC's lawmakers are obligated to ensure their voters' voices are heard. Though we understand there is a need to stop Malaysians from joining terrorist or militant groups, as well as stop Malaysia from being a transit point for terrorist activities, do we really need to resort to such laws? And the biggest question is it at a price Malaysians are willing to pay? Thanks for joining me on this week's edition of Headlines. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comment box below. Happy now?